Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I know timing is difficult there. Just to let you know, this will be recorded. So if for any reason you have to leave early, there'll be a backup recording of this so that you can use and share. And I'm going to start by saying, I'm actually really amazed. About 20 years ago is when I came out with my first pulsed electromagnetic field device. And it was called the Lightstream Wand, and the Lightstream Wand had a great success. It was the only PMF device that is pulsed gem circuit PMF. And just to let everybody know that there are so many devices out there, and when you really understand how pulsed electromagnetic field therapy devices work, you can really see where the quality technology is and where the very poor quality technology is. So you always have an amplifier. And with my systems, I separate the amp out. I don't build it in. And that's because most PMF beds and devices use poor quality made in China amps. And it's not that the Chinese don't know how to make good amps. There's a lot of good companies that under certain specifications get the amps made in China. It's just that the quality of the signal of a frequency can be determined by the quality of the amplifier, right? So I'm not going to name other companies by name, but I can tell you the way these things work is you have an emitter, and some people use hair dryer coils, believe it or not, and some people use very simple, curly coils in their mats. Some people use TV sets, which actually only the old TV sets from about 1980 back actually are emitters. So if you use a modern TV as an emitter, they don't emit. So basically that would be a lie, meaning they don't do anything at all. And you can test using a good, the way a tri-field meter works to measure fields is you have magnetic, you have electric, and you have radio frequency. Now, the radio frequencies tend to be today very high frequencies. Like we went from kilohertz, meaning 1,000 waves per second, to million hertz, megahertz, million waves per second. A lot of the FM and AM band radio stations were megahertz. And now today we're in billion hertz, which is gigahertz. And if anybody tells you they have a terahertz or trillion hertz wave, that's visible white light. So visible light from the sun is trillion hertz wave. There's nobody today that can send information, harmonic information on a trillion hertz wave. It's impossible. So if anybody's saying they're doing that, it's actually a lie. There's no way to do that. But if I generate heat with a hair dryer, I'm technically emitting infrared, which is low terahertz. But that's a hair dryer coil would not be good for this. Have always worked is I have a good amplifier, and today you can store quality frequencies in a computer and now even a phone, right? So we're introducing today my new Castle. This is a huge system. It's 2 feet. Let me just see where my camera's going. 2 feet wide on the bottom. And these coils are 14 pointed stars. This coil here is 1 cubit in diameter exactly. And they spin counter rotational to each other. So clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. And by spinning counterclockwise, I'm actually impeding the waves upon each other. And if you imagine if you take a rag and you twist it counterclockwise, and these are spinning at 3/4 of the speed of light in counter directions. So you can double that in the vortex actually. And because I can double it one, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there are 6 coils here, I have, if you can imagine what's actually happening is the room because the radius coming off of these coils measured here is effectively 35 feet across, but it actually goes out infinitely. And it sends a beam, a castle-like beam, into space, all the way into space, at multiples of the speed of light. So to generate what is truly called a scalar wave, which is originally called a Tesla wave, you have to impede frequencies upon each other in this fashion of counter-rotational, which is how Tesla actually did it. I was just looking for this document. So I was appointed director of the Tesla Foundation in Los Angeles by an MIT nuclear fusion scientist, very profound particle physicist, whose name is Bogdan Maglich. So I studied Tesla for over 25 years, all of his patents. And my job there was actually, we represented science for a better environment, but mainly we were looking at a novel form of nuclear fusion energy that fused helium and hydrogen, not unlike our sun, for a benign form of pure energy. And we were blocked heavily by the United States government. Under the Clinton-Gore White House, we were destroyed, actually. I spoke in the US Congress in 1994, and to my astonishment, the Gore-Clinton White House was making sure all of our investors were stopped, because we would destroy the nuclear fuel for nuclear weapon industry. We would have completely destroyed it, because those industries piggyback nuclear power plants that produce nuclear radiation to get weapons fuel for bombs. So that was astonishing to find out. So we were actually destroyed. With my knowledge of nuclear fusion and how fusion devices work, I started developing my own coil systems. There's three reasons people buy my systems, and have been buying my systems for 20 years. Is one, healing, and two is actually more for spiritual reasons. For consciousness expansion would be number three. For astral travel would be number two. And number one would be healing the body and smoothing out or tuning the mind. So you can effectively, with a system like this, even if you had one of the cubes in the castle, you can treat a very large space. So people can be sitting around this and being treated by this in large groups. Like you could have 30 to 60 people in a room, and they're all within the field that this gives off, right? And I'll just demonstrate in a second. I'm going to be running one of the things I like to do is use binaural beat frequencies. And binaural beat frequencies, it's best not to record them or use pre-recorded binaural beats, because the purity of sending one beat to one series of coils. So I'll be sending one frequency, which is only 2.6. It's actually the square of the golden ratio. So you take 1.61803398887 squared. And the second frequency I'm doing is the period of ascension from January 1st to when Jesus, after his 40 days after Easter, he ascended, which is the Ascension Day portal, which is 139.516. So I can punch these numbers in on a program called Dual Function Generator, which is really cheap to get. And when you use tone generators for binaural beats, again, it's much more pure than if somebody gave you an MP3 file, because it's coming out absolutely pure. And I've tested this. So as soon as I turn this on, so right now my meter is almost nothing, but as soon as I turn this on, it is, my volume must be down. Okay, just a second. I'm just getting it set up here. So as soon as I turned it on, then the field coming off of it is measurable. There's two ways you can test your coil. You can hold a magnet, and this magnet starts vibrating like crazy in my hand, right? So when I hold my meter up, you can see even here the activity, and I'm about 6.5 feet away from the center here, right? But the closer I get to it, the meter just maxes out. But I can walk 20, 15, 16 feet across the room right now. And now these frequencies, this is another aspect of a system like this, because my microphone is a coil inside of it. And this will only work if you have a good microphone. I really recommend the Yeti Blue microphones for internet. And because the frequency, I can put my microphone, even though we're not transmitting sound right now, we're transmitting a magnetic field, and it's spinning in the room. And I can feel the tingling in my nervous system and brain. But because my coil is effectively showing from here to there to my microphone is then picking up the frequencies. Even though you can't hear them, they're going out to you right now. And what I would typically do, so this means for people who get systems like this, you can do group healings.
I can feel it in my crown.
Yeah, you can feel it. It starts to tingle. It starts to open up. We're doing a very profound set of frequencies right now. For people who have been in my inner circle, who know what these really mean. But
yeah, I can totally feel it in my crown right now.
the other thing we're doing is we're adding a Tesla plasma ball to the top, and so that the frequencies share with the plasma ball, and it gives an added plasma energy to the field. You see, everything in the field, everything in this field right now is getting activated. So if I put my tea, I like white tea with milk right here, and I'll leave it here for the space of, even 10 minutes. And all of my crystals, if you know how crystals work, when they're getting pulsed magnetic activation, they're all emitting. I actually have 14 rubies on the top. Here, let me see if my camera will reach that far. I don't think it will. I don't know if you can see this, but the rubies.
Yeah, we can see it.
They're right there. And there's my Tesla plasma ball, which I will turn on right now. So this is probably, it is, I can say this in confidence, is the most truly effective pulsed electromagnetic field device on the planet. In fact, Tesla never really built anything like this. He has some very large coils. They were cylinder, so his windings were on wood frame and in huge circles. But these are 14-pointed star, and they're, again, I'm running, I have literally hundreds and hundreds of frequency programs in my frequency library that you can, effectively work with. And you can run any set of Rife frequencies. Rife frequencies are not copyright domain anymore. They're free to use. So if you can look up in a Rife catalog, you can look at any illness, and you can treat 60 people at a time with this, even 100, because I can measure it all the way across the room. So if I do a circle and I have chairs seated around this, everybody is getting the frequencies. Right now, you're getting the frequencies. It's funny. I just felt this. I just felt this spiral just go up my spine. And that's exactly what this is doing. So it's spiraling in both directions at the speed of light minus the resistance in the copper. So that's about 75% the speed of light. So if you could see this right now, it would look like the nucleus of the Milky Way galaxy, just spiraling, spinning light. And when you're sitting inside of it, it starts to your spine, because your spine is calcium, which is the metal, which is a conductor, you start to feel the kundalini starting to go up like this. And one of the experiences I'm having with this are off the chart. I've been doing this stuff for 25 years, and I've never felt anything like the castle anywhere in any. I mean, I've used Rife systems, the original Rife systems. I've used everybody's systems, and again, because I know electronically how most of these things are, how all of these things are working. And I know that TV sets show no activity at all. The idea of most of what's out there is completely ineffective. Rife's original transmitters were effectively plasma gas tube emitters. They were very effective. He really knew what he was doing. But what I found also is that you don't want to leave a destructive frequency to a pathogen or a virus. You don't want to leave that frequency in your body all the time. So if you're going to deconstruct a pathogen with a right frequency, you should always end a session with a series of harmonies, right? So, which is what I'm running right now. And a harmony requires 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 frequencies at the same time that are in perfect ratio to one another. So all of my frequency library frequencies are designed that way, all of them. So when I do, right now, if I want to do the frequencies of Earth, there's 8 octaves to 9 octaves of Earth in that track, all at the same time, rather than just one, because Earth doesn't just have one octave. If I want to do Venus, the planet of love frequencies, I've got a beam. In fact, when I first started working with the castle myself, I'm very strict the way I do my experiences. I won't use any systems for 2 months, which I did. And I meditate every single day. I've been meditating every day for 45 years. So I'm very sensitive. I can feel incredible bliss consciousness through meditation. But when I turned this on and I fell asleep, I literally saw a white spiraling vortex going all the way up into the stars. And I literally traveled on it. And I saw literally thousands of disembodied souls that were afraid to leave Earth riding the wave up. And some of them were not used to, even in the afterlife, going that high up and away from Earth, but they were very, very curious what this spiraling beam was. And actually, scientifically, this is not theoretical. It's not something I'm creating with my mind. It's actually happening with this system. Right. So when you come into that field, you start to feel your kundalini energy vortexing upwards. In fact, we even have from the old days, and this was taken at Princeton University, an image. I don't know if I can find it right now, but it's an image of what the crown chakra actually looks like, taken by a $600,000 Mitsubishi, here it is, camera. And this particular image shows you, if I can do share screen, Shiroz.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Right here, this image here. It's a very grainy image right here.
Yeah,
but it was taken, you can see this guy's head at the bottom. And you can see in the very pixelated data, he has a funnel vortex coming out of the top of his head. But he is also a very advanced meditator, this particular individual. So he's in a very coherent state. But this vortex is the shape that the spinning field that I'm talking about. So when you come into the field, that is what you start to feel. I can feel these little vortexes spinning up my spine right now and sitting this close to it. And let me just see if I can pull up this other image of my galaxy clock. This is my my model that I developed like in the year 2000, so that's 23 years ago, that shows the mathematics of vortex energy and how actually vortex energy creates everything that is a harmony in nature. In fact, everything that is a harmony in nature is its central axis. Even a tree, as it grows, trees actually twist very slowly as they come out of the ground. We can actually see this. I was a tree planter for 23 years, so I've examined a lot of trees. And some trees will slowly twist clockwise and some counterclockwise. And when the loggers go into the forest, most people have never heard of this. They have to reject the trees that are spinning counterclockwise because the splits in the wood are opening up. And that wood, when they cut it and they make a beam out of it, it'll just untwist and break. It'll come apart. They actually know this.
So E equals HF represents what does it represent?
Well, that's Planck's formula. Energy
Okay.
is equal to the frequency of Planck's constant, which is
Right.
H, right?
H. Okay.
And what actually is happening in here when you're spinning a field like this, all of your field spins, which comes right down to the DNA in the center of every one of your cells, when they're out of order, when they're detuned, you are tuning them back into the harmony of the order if you're using harmonic frequencies. And again, I've looked at so many devices and I've looked at the frequencies they're using. I mean, the first thing I say is like, what frequencies are you using? And they just make up frequencies that are not tied in anywhere in nature. Like the golden ratio is tied in everywhere in nature. So I have a series called golden ratio brainwaves, where you have golden ratio delta, golden ratio theta, golden ratio alpha, golden ratio beta, and golden ratio gamma brainwave tuning. Nobody else has that, right? So when you retune, because tuning the human instrument, when you really get tuned properly, because this is a frequency musical instrument, and a frequency instrument can play music. So every one of us, when we talk, we're playing music. We're actually playing music when we think, depending on what we're thinking about. And when we're detuned, meaning all of our vortices are wobbling because they're out of phase. So if somebody just makes up frequencies and they put them in their healing device and they make claims about it, well, what is it going to really do to you in the long run? It will give you some energy, because in this formula, energy is equal to the frequency of Planck's constant, which is really very similar to Einstein's energy is equal to mass times the speed of light squared. They're very similar formulas, and both were contemporaries of each other. Frequency is energy, is what I'm saying. Because the higher a frequency of a wave is, the more energy per quanta of that frequency will deliver to the body. So sunlight is frequency, and it stimulates the cells and the atoms in the body. So it's transferring energy to the body, right? So all the microwave towers around you right now, all the cell phone towers, are transferring disharmonic fields of energy to the body. So people are getting detuned. And in fact, you look, I've done this study myself, very easy to do this. You look at a graph on the arrival of the increase of microwave towers in America and Canada and Europe, all over the world, and then draw the same line of the increase in mass violence and mass suicide and even fentanyl deaths. They perfectly coincide. Perfectly. And that's because our nervous systems passively receive frequencies all day long. In fact, Luc Montagnier, who won the Nobel Prize for co-discovery of the AIDS virus, got in a lot of trouble in the scientific community, medical community, for stating that DNA receives and reads frequencies all day long. So that means frequency matters more than anything. In accordance to how a person's going to feel, how much good energy they're going to have, So with microwave towers giving everybody disharmonic energy, which they could easily correct. If I could go to a CEO of the biggest cell companies in the world, I could change them so that all their carrier bands are all harmonic. Everyone would feel completely different. Your violence would go right down. It would go way down. Because when two frequency bands sending cell data are not harmonies, like music is a harmony, good music is a harmony, bad music would be a disharmony, then you wouldn't acoustically hear, because you can't hear higher than 20,000 hertz, and 20,000 hertz you can actually barely hear. The radio bands where we're transmitting data on are in the billions of hertz right now. So you can't hear that, but you can feel it. And you don't know why you're feeling a certain way, because when 2, 3, and hundreds of bands are transmitting data in your community or your city, and they're out of phase with one another, they're doing this to all of the vortexes in your DNA, and then your nervous system, right? Parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. So heart rhythms can go out of phase. You can see an increase in heart attacks with the mass arrival of, America has over 200,000 microwave towers putting out huge energy all day long. So another reason for having a system like this, and I don't think people, you can buy one cube at a time, and then half a year later get the next cube, and then the next cube, and then you have a complete system. But these are effective in single cube modules, right? So the bottom one, the biggest one, is the most expensive one, and then you get the second one, which is less, and the third one, which is less, and you have a complete system. And they're connected right now to a Yamaha amplifier, and I'm still transmitting these frequencies. And the frequencies I'm transmitting are a true golden ratio harmony between the two. I can build 3 nodes, I can build 4 nodes, I can build 5 nodes of harmonies. I have pre-recordings of literally thousands of frequencies for people to use. And those frequencies span healing the body. I can say theoretically treating illness. I can say that legally, theoretically. I can't. Anybody who legally says that their device will cure cancer, 1, it's illegal, and 2, they're probably lying. Now, we've had very effective results with people with all sorts of illnesses, but I still can't legally advertise that and make that claim at all. You can get into an enormous amount of trouble, even though people who are interested in these systems will theoretically, I can say, try to help treat their situation. And even if their situation improves or gets better, which we've seen hundreds and hundreds of times, I don't even use those as testimonials. I can't even legally use them as testimonials. Well, somebody raised their hand, Shiroz, so we can take questions.
Yeah. Hi, Claire.
Hi. Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, David. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I've learned so much today. And I have a lot of questions, but the main question I have is, how many modules did you use to build your castle? And number 2, you said that you can purchase a single module at one time. How effective is that single module?
Oh, very. A single module, like that's what I started with. I came out with the cube, what I called the cube, a single module, over a year ago.
Can everyone see David? I have a message here saying to stop share screen so you can.
Yeah, I did. I've already done that. Yeah,
Okay.
I've already stopped the share screen. So again, this bottom module here is 24 inches, but the diameter of the coils, and there's 2 coils here. So this plugs into, say, left speaker out, right speaker out. And because I have 3 modules, I just twist all my left speaker and my right speaker paired systems together. So we actually teach you how to do this, of course. And once it's set up, and with a really good amp, I mean, I'm running a Yamaha PX amplifier right now. I can run this for hours and it won't overheat the amplifier. And so I also found if you can put herbal medicine in the coil, and the vibration of that medicine starts to go out into the room. In fact, that of course works with a single module, or it just gets stronger and stronger. So if you
can do that with a cube too, right?
Yeah, that's a single module. So
right.
If you can also play therapeutic music through these, this is really important because most speakers, if you have a sound healing space, and yes, when you're using toning bowls, the full frequency range of the bowl will go into the room, but most speakers start at 38 hertz, 35, 38 hertz. So you've missed delta, theta, and alpha, and you're an upper beta part of the brain at 38 hertz. So you've missed the whole lower brain, right? And even though university studies have proven that therapy that activates the delta and the theta, which are the deepest healing parts of the brain waves, improves a person's state, stereo systems won't put out those frequencies, but this will. So that means I can plug and play frequencies. I don't have to change anything. I can play music through Apple iTunes here through the same device, and the music will come out of my speakers and the coils at the same time. So the magnetic wave of that therapeutic music, so let's say you have 432 tuned music, or you just have really nice, relaxing massage music, the person, the recipients will get a magnetic wave of that music, which travels at the speed of light, as well as the sound wave, which travels at just under 780 miles an hour, right? So you're getting both, and you're getting full spectrum frequency response. So with healing centers that only use organic instruments, right, there's another thing you can do. If a person is a healer themselves, because a person's aura is a magnetic field, and they speak into a microphone that's connected to the amplifier, their voice will go out into a magnetic field at the speed of light at the same time. And that's incredible. That's incredible, right? So Claire, you said you had another question?
Yeah, so you talked about this harmonic energy, and you use microwave as an example. The phones that we use these days, the different types of brands of phone, Apple, other types of phone, does it emit the same type of energy?
They rely on those towers. So your phone is relying on the tower to send and receive data. So your phone sends data when you're talking, which is your voice, and it receives, right? So when you're not using your phone, it's, I can test it with this meter here. And when you want to test, you have to change to red, which is radio frequencies. But what's amazing about today's internet bands is some of them go way higher frequency than the limit on this particular meter, and you have to get really expensive meters to see all the transmissions. But I've walked around Santa Fe, New Mexico, Boulder, Colorado, my town in Canada, and in the RF mode, it's going crazy all the time. Now I live rural, so out here in the country in RF, there's really nothing going on. It's all zeros. Like, this is my RF right now, right? It's 0, 0, 0, like 2, 2 something, right? So I'm not using RF here. I'm using frequencies through this device that are in the range of the human brain and the human acoustical system, right? So I'm not using any RF. There's an institute called Electric Power Research Institute in which cooperated with Canada. They've been doing this for over 25 years. They did human health studies on radio frequencies and electric frequency wiring in the house to see if there's any correlation to Down syndrome and cancer, because you get a lot of children that are born with Down syndrome. And they partially admitted there might be a connection to leukemia and Down syndrome in elderly and children with high tension power lines, but they didn't. Those studies, again, see, the way scientific studies work is if everybody living within a certain distance of a microwave transmitter, so you're talking cell phone and internet, didn't get cancer or Down syndrome, then they would say, well, we don't know what really caused the cancer, right? And there's a scientist that I knew personally, and I was able to work with him, named John Goffman. And Goffman was one of the original Manhattan Project physicists who worked with Glenn Seaborg, who was the chair of the Atomic Energy Commission. And I worked for, when I worked for Maglich, I had access to Seaborg personally many times. And Goffman told me that Seaborg hired him to set safety limits for ionizing radiation for the public in America. And when Goffman presented his safety limits, Seaborg said, well, those are too low. We're already emitting way higher than that from all the hospitals, because the hospitals that use X-ray machines, mammography, CAT scan are all emitting nuclear, ionizing radiation. And then you have your power plants, your nuclear power plants. So they had to raise the safety limit. But as they raised the safety limit, even though more people got cancer, not everybody does. And the reason for that scientifically is a huge mystery, why one person is cancer-free and the other one isn't. But one of the things we know is that people who have high frequency systems, their nervous system is really running at really good frequencies. They seem to be less prone than people who are not. And one of the ways we improve our energy field is by making sure we're getting all the electrolytes, right, in your diet. So you get phosphorus from grains, one of the most important electrolytes. You can't really get it anywhere else. I mean, some of it's in nuts and seeds. And then you get potassium from fruit and potatoes. You cannot live without potassium. You can't live without sodium, which is salt, sodium chloride. Bruce Lee, actually, it's proven now in his medical records, he died from hyponatremia, which is no salt. You cannot live without salt. And calcium, which is one of your prime electrolytes. So your minerals, your trace minerals in your diet are your conductivity. It's like the wiring, like copper wire is an electrolyte. But it's not an electrolyte, it's a mineral. So it's a conductive, it's part of your conductivity in your body. But your electrolytes are your battery. So they give an electric charge. So calcium isn't just for your bones, it's for your electricity, for your nerves. And if you're not getting enough calcium, your body will steal it from your bones until it can't do it anymore. And then your system is not going to function properly. Hair starts to fall out when you get low calcium, and people start hallucinating when they don't get enough calcium. So when you're working with frequency therapy, I tell everybody, make sure, like lemons and pistachios is lithium. That's really high electrolyte material. Got to get your salt, got to get your calcium, you got to get your magnesium, which is going to be in nuts and brown rice. Brown rice is a really good source of magnesium. In fact, they did a study after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the nuclear detonation of the two cities in Japan after World War II in 1945. This is really amazing. The people who ate the white rice, which were the richer families, got cancer and died. The people that ate the brown rice, who were poor, got more magnesium and they lived. So this is why the studies that were done by John Goffman in the early days could not see a uniform amount of people who were being exposed to high energy fields getting cancer. It was non-uniform. So then, because it was non-uniform, they raised the safety limit. And when they raised the safety limit, more people got cancer, but it still wasn't uniform. And that's because some people, if we ate from all of our 5 food groups, you'd get all your electrolytes and you would be in much better shape. But those studies were done before the microwave towers arrived. And so the microwave towers have been here and they keep building more of them. And we're seeing the violence and the suicides and the fentanyl. Fentanyl to me is mostly intentionally used to end a person's life. I mean, the people using it know that. And then we're losing more people to fentanyl than we lost in World War I and II on a yearly basis while we were in combat. More. That's astounding. So I think the answer is using systems like this, and running harmonies can at least recalibrate human beings who were within that field. So if you were in an apartment building or a condo and you had one cube, you would be benefiting your neighbors without even knowing it. You would. You could, with a castle, you could benefit a whole community, because they're getting hit by negative decalibrated frequencies, but once or twice a day, especially morning and night, when people are sleeping, you're retuning their nervous systems and they don't even know it. And they start feeling more in a harmony, right? Now, before electricity, before all of this stuff, there are the natural rhythms in nature and the natural harmonies in nature. We would have far less violence. I mean, we had wars, but believe it or not, there weren't anywhere near as many people dying in those wars on a daily basis.
David,
yeah.
We have a question from Dr. John about distance healing.
Well, see, that's just it.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
That's what I was saying. So you're a good microphone. Actually, a microphone and a speaker are the same thing. So they have a paper diaphragm, and the microphone is receiving air pressure and will move a magnet attached across a coil like this and send out those frequencies to a recipient. But because a coil can induct or receive actual frequencies without the sound wave, you can run your system, put your mic a foot away or as close as you can to your coil, and then have your clients, assemble through Zoom like this and use headphones. There's little tiny coils in your headphones, right? Really tiny coils in your headphones. So they're close to the brain. They're so tiny, the coils in your headphones, so tiny. So it works on a very weak scale, which means safe, and it means the brain is very sensitive to very weak energies. Like on my coil right now, I have the volume at about 60%. If I had 100 people in the room, I might turn it up to 80%, right? To be a little more effective. But at distance, if a person is a therapeutic healer and they want to work with clients, they will receive it through a good microphone. Not like the microphone in your computer would be not acceptable. It wouldn't be good enough. And then if you combine that with intention, see, when you're in a tuned magnetic field, like I've had people do this where they say, I don't believe this stuff works. It doesn't do anything. So if you're in a magnetic field that's tuned and you're going to reinforce the negative, you're going to reinforce it. You're going to amplify a negative. You have doubt, right? It's better to have nothing. So no expectation, but also no negativity when you're in an amplified magnetic field. And at least then you have your baseline non-disturbed. But if you're sitting there going, this stuff is all a bunch of baloney, you're going to amplify that in the field, right? If I think a positive thought, and it's hard to have a positive thought when a person is experiencing suffering and they're experiencing negativity. That's the first thing. And it's not, you can't just say, you can try saying a positive word, even when you're in a negative space. You can try that. But when you start feeling it, when you start feeling positivity, and then you say a positive affirmation, it's going to be way more powerful. So at least when people who are full of doubt, I mean, they should at least be neutral, at the very least. If you can say a positive affirmation and you don't really feel it, well, that's a start. And then eventually, as the stagnant energy in the body starts to spin and it starts to move. This is another thing that's really important for people, is if a person's really blocked and you start moving their energy, because this system will move energy, they're going to have thought and emotional detox. They're going to have all kinds of feelings, and they're going to say, because they're going to actually feel, whereas before they couldn't feel anything. Let's say a person can't feel, they report that they can't feel anything. So if they can feel, even if a person who can't feel anything can start to feel anger and resentment, that's good. That means the energy's moving. And if they can express that and identify that they're having feelings in the body, whereas prior to that they had none, they're completely numb, that's progress. That's not a bad thing. And then slowly, as they have catharsis and emotional release, because the energy is moving, it's going to force stuff out. They'll start to slowly come into harmony, and they'll start to have true positive feelings again. So that's the process. So if you see people having negative feelings, that might be a really good thing. Or the other thing you could do, if those negative feelings are not comfortable, you just turn the volume down a bit on your amplifier and stimulate them with a little less energy.
And that was gonna be my final question. How are you able to measure the frequency of that person before you apply the module to give them the right, I guess, frequency to help them?
Well, you could try an aura camera reading. You can try muscle testing a person. Muscle testing is a bit tricky, because if you get a weak muscle response to a certain frequency, I would test a person before any frequency and to a series of questions, because sometimes a weak response means their wall's coming down and they're going into receiver mode. So the thing about muscle testing, and I know a lot about muscle testing, is now if a person, when you muscle test them, they fall over, then they're out of balance to whatever the impetus is. I mean, some frequencies a person might not be ready for. They might be too advanced for them, right? And my frequency library is so huge, you can tell by the title headings what may or may not be good for that person, right? I think every client needs to have their electrolytes checked, and they need to see, you can ask them from their diet questions what they eat, right? There's good Merck manual descriptions on what the benefits are to each electrolyte and what happens when a person is too low or too high. Like if you have too much salt in your diet, that's not good. But in the summer, we drink a lot of water, we need a lot of salt. When you don't drink a lot of water, you don't need a lot of salt. But you don't want to flush your salt out of your body in the summertime when you're thirsty. And that's what Bruce Lee did. He drank a lot of water, but he flushed out all his sodium and your potassium and your magnesium. So muscle testing first. If a person gets much stronger and it's not easy to knock their body over and lose their balance, then that's probably a really good frequency for them. But if their arm comes down and they're not knocked over, that might be a sign they're in the feminine receiver mode. And that might be a good thing. But if they get knocked over, that's not a good thing. So that's how you would know before. If you have access to an aura camera, I mean, some of the aura cameras are quite good. Or the Konstantin Kortkov GDV camera. I mean, we did sessions years ago in Sedona, and here was the difference between a traditional sound healing before and after on the aura. So with sound healing, you could see an increase in a person's energy field on the GDV aura camera system, but only hours later they went right back to their baseline. But using my systems, which is the pulsed gem systems, we had a group of 7 women in Sedona. We tested them 3 days later and a week later, and they were still higher than their baseline from one treatment. See, sound is very superficial compared to magnetic, because magnetic will go all the way to the bones. It will transmit energy to the bones, and all the electron shells in the calcium and the phosphorus and magnesium in your bones will get energized. And that energy seems to stay with a person for at least 3 to 5 days after one session on these systems. Whereas regular sound therapy, they're feeling really good, but within an hour, it's almost all gone, right? And that's because the sound isn't activating the bone, the core, right, the bones are where all your electrolytes are stored. It's like the battery of the body.
So toning alongside of working with frequencies is very beneficial then.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you're vibrating the body at the same time.
At the same time, yep.
And then can you also talk about like using a photograph or DNA sample or something with the castle?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because your physiological appearance is you, it's digitally you. When sunlight bounces off your body and goes back to the sun in 8 minutes and 21 seconds, the universe is recording everything you're doing all day long, including inside, because the light that comes off your chest, which is infrared, travels at the speed of light. It goes right through the wall. It goes out into space and the sun. So the universe knows who you are. So if I take a picture of a person, and I'll show you how you do that with these. You can do it with a single cube module. I don't have any printed pictures of a person, but let's say this was a picture of a person. That's why in the middle, I just slide it in here, right? And I leave it in there. And if I want to send that person remote healing for a couple weeks or a week, every time I do a session, they will receive it. That's because frequencies are photons, which are particles of light. They memorize everything on the planet. They know what everything
that would work if that was a business card, for example, too, right?
With somebody's name on it. That'd be really interesting to try, right? Somebody else might have that same name, but it's also intention, right?
Right.
So I believe I can take a flash drive, one of these guys right here. Where's my little flash drive? You know those little flash drives?
Yeah.
And I put digital images of 1,000 people in there. And I unplug the drive and put it in there, then I can treat 1,000 people.
Right.
So if it's all about your client list is your business, your client base. Because their image is magnetically stored in that flash drive. It won't go, it's really there. And if you only put images of people and not a bunch of other stuff, so, reserve a digital hard drive. You can do it that way, or even a printed photo, because there's nobody else on the planet who looks exactly like you. There's nobody. You can even do it with sound, right? You can have a sound recording of a person's voice, and you can send their voice out on the system.
Is there a limit? Is there a limit to how many people you can put on the flash drive, or it doesn't matter as long as?
I don't think there's a limit. I really don't think there's a limit, because their image, the way data and bytes get stored on the drive, it's
as long as it's a unique image of them, or like a unique
an image of them. Yeah, right. You could have 10,000 people. It just depends on how many people you have. And then they're all getting the same frequencies. You can also take, and this is what Ruth Drown did, who's the discoverer of radionics, one of the early radionics discoverers in the Los Angeles area, actually. The FDA came in and burned her lab to the ground, but she would take a hair sample, or you can take blood on unbleached coffee paper and put it in there, and that person's DNA will, we know this from quantum mechanics, will receive the vibrations at a distance, regardless of the distance, right? So hair or blood. Now, I think the blood sample idea was really offensive to the medical establishment when she was doing this, but she got tremendous results sending, you know, people remote healing through the blood, right? So those are the possibilities. And again, I use my crystal collection. I have a lot of things in here. I've got seashells. I've got all kinds of things on here. I have all kinds of different crystals, you know, that are in the circuit all the time. And then once they've been in there a while, as soon as I pick this up, boy, I just felt that right away. But tomorrow I won't feel it as much, right? I can really feel this in my, oh my God, in my nervous system. I didn't even mean to do that, but it's really sending me incredible energy. Oh my God, there's so much energy there. It's incredible. And that's because crystals are alive. In fact, physicists have discovered that sapphires are actually alive. They will, if you put a sapphire in a pitch black container, it will lose its color because it gave off all of its energy. And you put it back in the sun, the color comes back. They're alive. These gems are alive. So when they're hanging out in this field, let's say again, you have a room full of people and you have a whole bunch of rocks, like even riverbed stones, and then you can pass them around the room and they're going to be really active for at least an hour, even after I I mean, I still have this on. Did I turn it off yet? So I'm going to turn it off right now.
So you mentioned,
I mean, I've got tingling in my legs right now. I just turned it off. And now that I turned it off, here's another important point. Because everything is magnetic, believe it or not. Aluminum, copper, tin, everything is magnetic. It's either paramagnetic, diamagnetic. Ferromagnetism is the ability of a rare earth material like neodymium to be a permanent magnet. So as soon as I turn the copper coil off, it's no longer magnetic. But when it's on, all the dust particles in the room, all the atoms in the air, even hydrogen atoms, because oxygen is hydrogen and oxygen, right? They're either paramagnetic or diamagnetic. Everything is one of the two, which means right now I turned it off. All those particles in the air are spinning in the vortex for a period of time. And I determined that time can last up to 3 days, depending on the activity in the room. I can still, I don't need to have this thing on all the time, is what I'm saying. Like morning and night, one session, half an hour to an hour each.
but you could leave it on 24/7 if you wanted to.
Well, I don't know what'll happen to your amp at that point. I mean, depends how good your amp is, right? You have to have a good amp to, I've left them on by accident for a couple of days and my amp was fine. Now, you got to have a good amp. You can always get your amp. You wouldn't leave your music stereo on for 2 days. It might overheat is what I'm saying. And you might fry some circuits and have to go get it repaired. But see, now even my tea, which again, everything in my tea, the water is hydrogen and oxygen. I'm drinking white tea with milk, it all got activated by these frequencies and I can really feel it, even now that I've turned the system off.
Okay, so, David, there's another question here about the castle and how the bed relates to the castle when we say that the castle and the bed can be a bed or the best.
Well, see, the bed is they're the same coils. They're 14-pointed star coils, is this close to the spine, right? So let's say you're lying on a mattress this thick. The closer you are to the coil, the stronger the field is on the body, right? But if I do the bed and one cube or the castle combined, I mean, I can do that. I can wire that. I've got a really ultimate system because I'm going to do half an hour on the bed and really be close to the field and really activate my bones and the bone marrow. And then the castle, this is what happens. The more you run the system, the room and the space, the energy starts to remember everything that you've run through it. And the whole room starts to feel different. And once I've been running this for a year in here, I mean, the whole place becomes a portal. The whole place gets supercharged, you know, over the course of a year. In fact, after a year, if I took it away, all the atoms in the walls, the glass windows, which are right here, and glass is a silica, which is a crystal, it's all been affected by it. It's all memorized the frequencies, right? We memorize frequencies, right? So if I play somebody here a Pink Floyd song who's from that time period, then you know it, right? Or Jefferson Airplane, or whoever your favorite, if you play it, your body already knows it, and suddenly you know the lyrics. But if I told you the name of the song that Pink Floyd did, would you know the lyrics? But as soon as you play the music, when I play the music, I know the lyrics all of a sudden. I'm singing along. And that's called memory, right? Frequency memory. The more frequencies are played in a space, the walls, everything has memorized those frequencies. So you can even do clearings in people's houses. Like you could drive in the car with your amp and your cube and run it in somebody's house for a week and then take it away. You will have changed their house. It will no longer be the same. Yeah, go ahead.
Does the call have the same effect on animals as well? Have you been able to tell?
Oh God, yeah. Like our dog in Sedona was, you know, she was getting old, but she was suffering and she couldn't sleep. Nua, she was just a little Westie. She would go right to sleep next to the wand. In those days, I just had the wand, and she'd pass out. She could at least sleep and be pain-free. It was amazing watching how animals respond to frequencies. They're like, dogs are more tuned to frequencies in cats than a lot of humans. It's because some humans are really injured emotionally. They can't feel anything. They have a hard time feeling. But pets seem to be even more sensitive to frequency, right? We had a guy, his dog had this huge tumor on his ear, and he didn't want to, you know, go to the vet and do what they were going to do. He used the sound of the sun with the wand and a coil, and he sent us pictures of the tumor shrinking, and then gone. Of course, it would do the same thing in humans, but I can't say that. And again, that's why I caution people. If somebody is advertising they're curing cancer, well, they're taking a huge risk. I mean, it's scientifically hard to, like, I can show you pictures of the guy's dog's tumor shrinking down to nothing. I think it took over a month. But even scientifically, I can't prove that it was the wand that did that, even though it's highly likely it did. I still can't do that. You know why? Because the next person might have a dog and the tumor doesn't shrink, right? And it's the same thing with cancer. Inversely, with ionizing radiation and with microwave radiation coming off all these towers, you know, you might see an increase in kids getting cancer in a community, but not every kid is getting cancer. And inversely, I might cure a lot of people's cancer, might go down, or we've had people live 6 years longer than the doctor said they were going to live, and they died. But I still can't say that legally. You can't do that. And that's the problem with the science of proving that microwave towers are harmful. You can't prove it. But it's probably happening, but you can't prove it. And that's how they get away with it. So as people, we have to be intelligent, right? Our brain waves are electromagnetic. Our heart waves are electromagnetic. So we are electromagnetic. So any electromagnetic system can receive and transmit electromagnetism. Makes sense. You can tell that to a doctor, but they still won't believe you if you say I live near a microwave tower and I got cancer because of it. They won't even believe you, right? Not unless everybody gets cancer and everybody's dead and they're living near, and it never happens that way, not even with nuclear not even with the detonation of nuclear bombs. Some people don't get any cancer, and then everybody else does. So the higher the level of ionizing radiation, which is gamma, alpha, and beta radiation, and X-rays, but X-rays are much more rare, because even though the sun will rarely spit out an X-ray, by the time it gets to Earth and goes through the Earth's magnetic field, its ionizing radiation is pretty weak, right? Because if the sun spit out X-rays, which it does periodically, why aren't we all dead, right? But yet, if I expose 1,000 people to X-rays all day long, and 2 or 3 of them get cancer, you can't scientifically see the X-rays cause the cancer because everybody didn't get cancer. That's how they get away with this. That's how they're getting away with putting more and more and more microwave towers in our environment. And you see more and more violence, more and more suicides. Like America has over 50,000 suicides a year, and that's been consistent for over 10 years. And your fentanyl deaths are 100,000.
There's a question here about children and frequencies. Can you speak about that?
Well, I have 2
Your
small
children and frequencies.
So my children will report amazing dreams, and I don't tell them, okay, I'm running these frequencies, tell me what your dreams are. I do my own double-blind studies. I won't run anything for a month or 2 months. I meditate every day. I go into this wonderful bliss state meditating, and even my dreams can be quite boring and insignificant. And as soon as I do targeted frequencies, the dreams my children report totally illuminated dreams, like spectacular stuff. Like my youngest one, Astoria, will dream about white doves and golden temples when I'm doing Holy of Holies frequencies, right? And she just reports that automatically, because she'll tell me her dreams in the morning. So again, they're more sensitive, right? Because they're less jaded. Not all children are not jaded, obviously. Some children have had severe early trauma. But it makes sense that even harmonious music is soothing to the nervous system. So harmonious frequencies, even though you can't hear them, would have an effect on the nervous system. And children are just super sensitive, right? So dogs, cats, usually if they get a lot of love, they're very sensitive and can do really well with frequencies. Also, with your dog and your cat, you can put in, what's it called? You know, that white silica powder that you put them to get rid of the worms is called, I forget what it's called.
I know what you're talking about. I put it on my cats. I have 2 cats. It's diatomaceous earth.
Diatomaceous earth, right? So diatomaceous earth is crystal.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Oh yeah, it's crystal. So you're giving them electrolytes, plus the diatomaceous earth under the microscope will slice up all the parasites. You know,
I
so
put it in their food as well.
yeah, it's really good. I put it in my smoothies, in
Okay.
my own smoothies. Yeah, you can put diatomaceous earth food grade in your own smoothie. Like just a level teaspoon once a week is really good for humans too. It's silica. It's high in silica, which is, you know, the base of a quartz crystal. So any other questions before
Yeah,
we go?
the staff and the castle. What's the how
Well,
how does
the
the
staff
combine with the castle? And then the other comment from Charlie is he and his cat love the frequencies.
Oh, good. Charlie and his cat love the frequencies. That's cool. And they both can feel it. Well, you can also plug in your high frequency power supply to the castle and run it 24 hours a day. And which is what you use for the staff, right? So it can be a permanent. Again, most signal generators have 2 channels. So all my top coils will go on one channel, all my bottom coils on the other channel. And the difference between the staff's power supply is it's emitting radio frequencies, but you can harmonize radio frequencies, right? The cosmic microwave background of the universe has a natural harmony. It's not a very high frequency. I'll tell you what it is right now. So what is the cosmic No, what is the frequency of hydrogen? It's called the frequency of hydrogen, which is the most abundant element in the universe, is 1.420 gigahertz, right? So that the hydrogen, what I did with hydrogen frequencies is I built all their octaves, right? So you can divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, or divide by the golden ratio, divide by the golden ratio. And all of those are hydrogen octaves. Because 1.420 gigahertz is a very high frequency. So to buy a signal generator that puts, and it's less than 1 watt comes out, but I can measure it on this 5 feet away in RF mode coming off the castle. So there's so many natural high frequency bands again that I have that people use on their staffs. And another thing I've discovered, this is very new. It's very sophisticated though. So I've calculated all the frequencies of all the planets in the solar system, including their golden ratio octaves. And you'll always find that all of our planets are in pairs. Like Venus and Earth are almost the same frequency, so they're paired. Jupiter and Saturn are very close, so they're Uranus and Neptune are paired. Mercury used to have a twin planet, and that is the planet that lines up with the ascension date of Jesus. 130. It has a period. See, Mercury goes around the sun just under every 88 days, and the ascension planet is 139 point something days. So Jesus's ascension day this year was exactly 100. It was on May 21st, so we just passed it. In the Eastern Church is May 25th. There's a bit of a window for these very sacred days, but it lines up perfectly with what used to be Mercury's twin, right? And then Mars used to have a twin, but Mars's twin is in the asteroid belt, which is the asteroid belt because it was obliterated. It was an obliterated planet in a massive cosmic event. So I will run those pairs, right? Those paired frequencies. And when I look at the numbers, and I can take Mars or Venus and Earth and move up and down the octave, is really amazing. But I can go to Mary Magdalene's temple in the sea. I've done this, and I can go to the Great Pyramids as a temple, and I can look at its Latin long in digital form as pairs, and I can match it to a planet, a pair of planets. It's incredible. So the Great Pyramid is Earth to the sun. And I've gone to the place where Jesus was baptized, is the same place where John the Baptist baptized, is the same place where the prophet Elijah ascended. And I can see it's paired to 2 planets. So this is something very, very new I'm doing. So all the temples on the Earth, the Latin longs, match frequency octaves of pairs of planets. And I'm going through that right now. I'm trying to find all of them to see if there's a coherency. Because when I ran the frequencies of the Latin long of Jesus's baptism, I have a spiritual experience that I just can't even put into words. I can't even describe how incredible it feels to do the Latin long frequencies through this, where Jesus was baptized. I did it for months. It was my favorite frequency. What it did, it's a feeling you get inside. You just like when you listen to music, right? You can't describe the feeling the music gives you. But frequency is doing the same thing, but it's doing it without sound, right? Because it's going into your body magnetically, right? So I can turn this back on. I can see the activity on my meter, right? And if I put my hand in the way, you see, if I put my hand in the way, it doesn't stop the frequencies. They go right through my body, right through my head. Like, so they go right through you, like you're not even there. Whereas sound will bounce off of you. Some of it will cause a reverberation in the body. Your bones will vibrate a little bit. And again, you have the limitation of the frequency range of sound, right? Because it won't put out the low end very well. Your headphones go lower than your speakers, but they still don't go to theta and delta. But your headphones will put out effectively beta and up. So for sound healing, these systems are the way to go. Well, thank you everybody for being here and assembling today. It's nice to have, I like your questions, really great questions. So I could take one more question and then we could wrap it up.
Anyone have a question? If not, then I'll ask a question.
Whoa. Okay.
Well, anyone have a question? Just go ahead and unmute and ask your question if you have a question.
Okay,
All right, go ahead, Claire.
so much today. I have so many questions going on in my mind. Earlier, David, you talked about the vision of disembodied souls, right? And that immediately took me to the astral belt, because what I'm understanding with the astral belt is it's almost like a field that most people cannot ascend beyond when they're passing on to another level of existence. So that's been my understanding. Perhaps maybe you can clarify that a little bit more. If there's
Well, see, in Dante's system, I have a whole course on this actually, is when Dante, you know, had his visions, Dante Alighieri, the Italian poet, he goes to the 9 levels of hell with the poet Virgil, who wrote the Aeneid, and then the 9 levels of purgatory, which is purgation, which is purification. Purgatory are levels of purification. And when he comes to the first heaven, it's earth to the moon. So for those souls who reach the first heaven when they die, they're not used to leaving earth to the moon, the magnetic field of the earth to the moon. And they can experience paradise actually on a higher level, right? So I had this, and then Dante's second heaven is, I think it's Mercury. So it's earth to the earth. Venus is third, Mars is fourth. Oh, the sun is third. So it's earth, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars. I have to look on his system exactly. In each heaven, the aura gets brighter. The experience of ecstasy and love multiplies a millionfold. And there are civilizations on the 9 planets, according to Dante's experience. And what happened to me very recently, and I've taught a course on this because my wife passed August the 9th, you know, this August will be 2 years ago. I had an experience where she called out my name. I was in a hotel in Banff, Alberta, Canada with our daughters, and who are, you know, 7 and 12 years old right now. And it was so clear I heard Crystal's voice. It was so clear. So I calculated on a calculator from the day she died to the date of my experience was 591 days. So I'll show you what that does. And this is mind-blowing what it does. I've actually got astronomers interested in this right now from universities. So you see my calculator?
Yeah.
So 591 days divided by the golden ratio, long form, 1.6180339.887. Guess what happens? The exact number of sidereal days of Earth. Like Earth is exactly 365.258087 days per year. Now, if I divide it by the golden ratio again, that's Venus. Venus is 225 days a year. Now, if I do it again, and this took me a long time to find out what this is a planet that existed between Venus and Mercury. In fact, NASA knows it's there. I've done huge research into this. They're finding there might be an interdimensional planet there right now. I divided by the golden ratio again, and that's Mercury accurate to like 98.8%. It's phenomenal. So when I take the 591 times the golden ratio, and my wife did this from the other side, and I go up, so that will be Ceres, which is the dwarf planet in the asteroid belt. That's its period of the number of days Earth days it takes to go around the sun once. And then this is Jupiter, And then I come to Saturn, and there's spaces in between the planets that are golden ratio bands that are where we see what are called the Jupiter Trojan belts, where there obviously used to be another planet. Then we come to the Kuiper belt. They're all perfect within better than, on average, better than 98% accuracy. And the golden ratio is like pi. It's never 100% accurate. There's no such thing as 100% accurate golden ratio. And scientists didn't know that the planets were in these golden ratio bands before. And that's because 591 does not match Mars, but it matches Mars to about 86%. And we know that Mars used to have an atmosphere. They now know this, used to sustain life, but something hit it and scarred the side of the planet and sucked the atmosphere out into space. And I believe pushed it further away from the sun by only a small percentage. It's like about 16%. Right. So it used to be at a harmony of 591, but now it's like 600 and something days per year. But all the other planets, including Uranus and Neptune, they're within incredible perfection based on the number 591. So your question about the astral plane is it's consistent with Dante, because Dante says, he reports this, that Mars has a paradise, fourth level paradise. Saturn is the seventh level of heaven in Dante, and past Saturn, Dante goes to local star constellations, which are evident in ancient Africa, in India, in Egypt, and their cosmology of the realms of the gods and the goddesses. He starts going to what he calls the fixed stars, and then Dante comes to a heaven at the ninth level that seems to be something beyond this physical universe. But the fact that I got this mathematically perfect number from my wife and I decoded it, decodes the entire solar system to the golden ratio, proves that on the spiritual plane, each planet has a different frequency, and it's part of our spiritual evolution. And we continue in living bodies that to them are very physical. I mean, according to many mystics like Swedenborg and Dante, they're not vaporous bodies that everybody just walks through each other. They bounce off of each other. They're having a physical experience. And if you look at our body, the atoms in our body are mostly empty space. They're literally ghosts. They're not even 1% physical, the atoms in your body. They're just tiny vibrations at incredibly high frequency. And at that frequency, when they bump into each other, because all the elements on the periodic table are like frequencies, we think we're physical, but we're really not. We're vibrations. So when I got the 591 day formula from my wife, it was proof to me. She's showing me the original harmony and the order of the entire solar system is real, and that's where she is. I mean, if it didn't do what it does, I have a whole article on this. For anybody who's interested, Sharose can send it to you. You just write her, and you can read the fine details of the experience of the 591.
Yeah, just leave me a message on the site, and I'll be happy to send you.
Anyway, I have to get going back to my kids, so I really appreciate everybody here. Loved your questions. Great questions, Claire. Love those questions. Everybody's questions were great, and thank you again. There's a replay of this if you want to see it again. So
yeah,
have a great day, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Sharoza.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure meeting you, Deborah. I'm looking forward to talking further with you and Frank and Charlie and Dennis and everyone. Lisa, I haven't seen you all in a while, and great to see you all too. So everyone get in touch. Miss you all.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless everyone.
Thanks again, yeah.
Okay, bye, Dennis. Bye, Lisa. Bye, Charlie. Bye, everyone. Bye, Frank. And all you new people, Byron, bye. All you new people, get in touch, get to know us and connect with us, and You know, it's not all about the devices and sales. It's about building relationships and getting to know each other as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Bye, everyone.
Now, it never made sense to me. How could the speed of light be exactly 186,282 miles per second instead of point something miles? It ends at the 2,
Right.
186,282 instead of 182 point something.
So, Crystal, how did you know that?
I just knew instinctually, you know, when you work from your center a lot, you just have feelings about or knowings, not even
Absolutely.
feelings.
Yeah.
It was just a knowing
Yeah.
that it was off and it wasn't precise enough. And sure enough, when he decodes things, he gets down to
Well,
the exact decimal of everything.
I looked into the early Michelson-Morley experiments, which were done in Irvine, California, in this tunnel,
Right.
when they were trying to define the speed of light as an absolute measurement.